Hey everybody, welcome to Fractured Focus, episode number 28, the show where we obsess about everything from geek culture to nerd news, along with random topics for discussion. I'm one of your hosts, Ben Gordon, and coming in live from the great state of Nebraska, our special guest, who's here every week,
Yes.
Mr. Matt Swinehart. Matt, how you doing?
I'm doing good. It reminds me of that skit from Saturday Night Live.
Which one?
What's up with that skit?
Oh, yeah, what's up with
When
that?
they always brought in Bill Hader's character, whoever he was playing, Courtney something or another, and he never got to talk.
And they kept singing, "What's up with that? What's up with
Yeah.
that?" He would just sit there and be like,
Ooh wee.
perfect way to start things off. It was a hell of a day for video game news. It's kind of interesting when sometimes we got to kind of stretch some things to make some interesting conversation, at least stuff that we like talking about. But there was a bulk of it today. Let's start with the Super Nintendo Classic Edition was announced today. Did you jump out of your seat? Did you scream, while you were at work? Like, how did this information sink in for you, and how did you let everybody around you know that you were aware of this announcement?
I got written up.
Okay.
I pretty much ran around and told everybody right in their face
Okay.
that I was going to have one, and they wouldn't.
Well, I mean, what did they think was going to happen?
The normal.
Yeah, exactly. We call that Tuesday back home. We're just a day early. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
totally fine. This is going to be great because clearly they did such a great job with the launch of the NES Classic. I'm sure this is going to go without a hitch. But it's going to be $80, not $60, $20 more, but it comes with two controllers, not one. I think that takes care of the price differential. And
two controllers with 3-foot cords.
3 foot. Well, I think they said, didn't they say 5 foot? They said they're going to be 2 foot longer than the NES Classics 2. So at least they'll. It's funny though. Today, when you're so used to wireless, anything's got to be better than those NES Classic shit 2 foot cords. Don't get me wrong. But even if it's 5 foot cord, how many of us now are so used to wireless that we sit on our couch from across the room that even 5 foot is still going to be like it's either wireless or it's not at this point.
What do you think the smallest TV a person owns now? Maybe a 32-inch in their kitchen.
Yeah.
Most people are got a 45 at the minimum, 60-inch. Most of them.
Yeah.
And they're having to sit there and look from one side of the screen to the other on their 3-foot
Well, you
cord.
need something with that much screen real estate if you want to enjoy all the pixel art we're going to be getting from this system. But
Exactly. 16 bits.
yeah, remember
16 of them.
32,000 color palette, 256 colors on screen at the same time. So we're talking big jump up from the NES Classic.
And
But
this is what, 60 frames a second?
Oh, hell yeah. Let's hope your TV
Boom.
can handle that. Okay. Thank God for that
I don't
HDMI
know.
port.
I'm going to get on Sony's website right now and check.
This is, of course, one of the most beloved systems of all time. And it's going to come with 21 games. Let's go through the list really quickly. Contra 3. First of all, these are all fucking awesome choices, just like the NES Classic. This is the perfect amalgamation. Well, close. I have a couple issues with this list, but we'll get to that. Contra 3, The Alien Wars, awesome. Donkey Kong Country, I know a lot of people consider 2 and 3 to be much better games, which, of course, that series got better as it went on. But I think everybody remembers the original Donkey Kong Country the most, wouldn't you say? Yeah. So that's exactly what I would have put on there. Earthbound, hugely popular with a big cult following. I never played Earthbound, did you?
I never played it either. That was one of them I was going to ask you about.
Yeah, huge
Is that
following.
something Dan played?
It looked so. I remember, and I've seen people talk about this on other gaming websites from time to time, and how amazing this game was. And it's I think it's one of those things like if you missed out in the zeitgeist, it's hard to go back in and do it now, because it looks so kiddie, but apparently it gets kind of really weird. Like I guess the ending is really like fucked up or something. I just don't know if I would have the tolerance or patience to go through and play something that was this dated that I didn't have an emotional attachment to. I can go back and play Mario World or Final Fantasy or no problem, but this, who knows? But I'm sure a lot of people are super excited that they have. Final Fantasy 3, awesome choice. I am disappointed that we didn't get Final Fantasy 2, which was better known as 4, but the Super Nintendo Final Fantasy 2, still my favorite. 3 is a masterpiece. I can't argue with people that say it's better. I just happen to like 2 better, but that's great. F-Zero, still one of the best games, and that was one of the launch games. That was still awesome. Kirby's Superstar and Kirby's Dream Course. Never played any of these, did you?
Kirby Superstar, I think I played.
Did you? I mean, I know that they're icons and they're big games, and Kirby's a beloved. I just never really got into Kirby. I think that, first of all, if you only got 21 games, you could have done 22 and also thrown Final Fantasy 2 in there. I'm just saying. There's room on there. But I've got a feeling if you did that plus some of these other games, then you'd have, God, you could have months and months of playing time that would delve into some of the RPGs on this system. Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, there's no way in God's green earth that they wouldn't have put that on the system. One of the best Zelda games of all time. Mega Man X, fucking love it. Love that game. Secret of Mana, another RPG from Square. I never played through that one all the time, but that was very highly loved. I'm kind of surprised they put that one and not Chrono Trigger, because I think Chrono Trigger isn't that got a bigger following than Secret of Mana did?
Yeah, I mean, of the games I didn't know on here, Secret of Mana and Earthbound were those games.
Yeah, I know it was a big
because
Square.
I was playing Street Fighter. I wasn't playing the other games.
Yeah, yep, and we're gonna get Street Fighter 2 Turbo, which is, I think if you're gonna put a Super Nintendo Street Fighter on here, that's the one that you got to put. I know that there was 3. There was the original Street Fighter 2, there was Street Fighter 2 Turbo, and then there was Super Street Fighter 2. But I think that the one everybody thinks of the most with fondness for on the Super Nintendo was the Turbo one. So I think that makes total sense. We're getting Star Fox and the never before released Star Fox 2. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That
is.
Super Castlevania 4, another launch game that I still think is one of the best Castlevania games of all time. Awesome. Super Ghouls and Ghosts, awesome game, and also fuck you difficulty.
I have the regular one on the NES.
Oh,
the card.
Brutal. You know what I mean?
It is.
And that's what it's known for, so you can't, lose that aspect when you're going to make another Super Ghoul or a Ghosts and Goblins game. Super Mario Kart. Love the Super Mario Kart on Super Nintendo. I like that one, and I know I'm in the minority here, so feel free to go ahead and lash at me in the comments. But I actually like the Super Nintendo Super Mario Kart better than even the Nintendo 64 one or whatever. I just like the precise controllers when you get really good at the digital. I know I'm in the minority there, but I just love that one. The Super Mario Kart started delving into the analog stick, and that's when they started doing the rubber banding thing that no matter how far you get ahead, they'll slingshot people in the back to catch up with you. That pissed me off.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's cool.
I don't know. I might have to disagree with you on that.
Oh, most people would.
64 introduced 4-player.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
no, don't get me wrong. The 64 one was awesome. I just have such a fondness. We mastered the one on Super Nintendo. When it's just the digital crosshair and it's literally like how long you could just get your control down if you put the time into it so good you could be so precise with it, and that just add another level of complexity with the analog stick. But yeah, everybody pretty much thinks the 64 one was better. Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. I did start playing through this. I can see why it's so beloved. This was an awesome. I remember when they first announced that they were going to do a Mario RPG with the CGI rendered graphics that they used in Donkey Kong, and I'm like, what? But it's actually really fucking cool. Did you ever play that one?
Mm-mm.
That one's really cool. The South Park RPGs now that have been awesome are kind of modeled after that timing when you fight and pushing the right button at the right time type of thing. But that's really cool. Super Mario World. Does anything else need to be said? Of course. One of the best Mario games of all time. Super Metroid, fuck yes. Still one of my favorite Metroid games of all time. Super Punch-Out, thought was good. I never got into Punch-Out as much on the Super Nintendo as I did on the NES one. Did you ever play Super Punch-Out?
I did. I still like the original.
Yeah.
Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. I mean, it's Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
I agree. That Mr. Dream, I don't care about licensing, all that stuff. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out is the original, so... Yeah. And then Yoshi's Island, which I guess is like the Super Mario World sequel that I only played a couple levels of, and it just never, the aesthetic never appealed to me. It just looked too kiddie. When I played, I saw how graphically intensive it is. They were doing a lot of stuff with the chip they put into it. It was really cool, but I never played Yoshi's Island. Did you? Well, much.
I think I just played it in passing. It wasn't something I put any time into.
Yep. Great library that they got there. They said now this time they're launching it in September as opposed to when they launched the one, the NES Classic last year, which they started in November. But they said they are only planning to ship through the end of 2017. I wouldn't be surprised if that gets extended, even though we're getting more time this year than they did for the NES Classic last year. And they are saying that they will produce significantly more units of the Super NES Classic Edition than we did of the NES Classic Edition, but they're declining to give specific numbers. I don't care what they say. This thing is still going to be hard to find.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think it's going to go for eBay $400 per unit numbers, because I think that they will put more out there, and I think the NES Classic is even a more beloved system than this one, but who knows? Maybe I could be wrong about that. But I still think that these are all going to disappear.
Oh yeah. They'll get gobbled up. They'll get gobbled up by resellers. I mean,
Mhm.
that's going to be the bad part about it. And it might bite them in the end, but
Mhm.
that's going to be the consumer challenge. Is
Yep.
getting in there for the resellers, get them.
Yep. And if anybody that, and I know I still see a lot of people, man, they're sitting on the NES Classic cash cow, and yeah, they're saying they're going to put out more of the Super NES Classic, but we'll see how that goes. Of course, they're only going to do a limited run, because if anything, we've talked about this on the show before, they want to put more of their focus and attention onto the Switch and getting that, you know, in as many hands as possible. This, I think, is just a great tool to ignite interest and also, you know, rekindle a lot of that fondness for the nostalgia that we had as the unit. But if they really wanted to go out and sell 10 million of these, they could, but they know that they don't need to, which I think is smart from a marketing standpoint.
Well, yeah.
As a gamer, it's frustrating.
Give these people a taste.
Mm-hmm.
Start of next year, put all these games out on the Switch.
Yep.
You know, if you want to sell them all as a bundle for $60,
yep.
You know, whatever you want to do.
Yep. It's interesting too, because it's kind
I'm
of
just wondering how long it's going to take before somebody hacks this.
Yeah, it will. You know,
and
it will.
They have 100 Super Nintendo games on
Yep.
there. You know.
Yep. Exactly. It's kind of similar to the methodology that they're taking with their mobile strategy too, which I laughed at first, but it's working really well. You take your IP like Pokemon and Mario, and you put down not bad quality versions, but lighter versions that are still fun to play, like Mario Run or Pokemon Go, to get that interest of your IP out there to a whole bunch of people that maybe haven't played it before, so that they'll then want to come to Switch for the full experience. And so far, I think that strategy is really paying off for them.
It certainly is.
Explicitly, when I read that Nintendo's market capitalization actually has overtaken Sony's. Did you see that coming? I didn't.
There was a little fluff in that story.
Well, how so? What do you mean?
Well, as I was reading through it, I mean, this is something, okay, so Sony took over in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
After the sales of the Wii kind of weaned.
Right.
But, like, as far as for what the shares actually went up to, like, the percentage jump in share value wasn't as big as you'd think. It was like 5.4% or something like that. I mean, which is big when you're talking about that number of shares, but it wasn't like they were trailing by a huge margin. And
you're right.
Just all of a sudden exploded past them.
That does get painted to be a bigger picture than it was. I remember explicitly when Sony PlayStation, before it came to market, and interviews in like old school magazines like Next Generation Magazine, where they were talking about Sony entering the market. And they were talking about how, well, Sony is fighting Sega or whatever, but Nintendo isn't close to the size of company with valuation that Sony is, because Sony isn't just video games at that point. I mean, they were, if you wanted a Walkman or a CD player or like, I mean, there's Sony
VCR.
Pictures. Yeah, they're a huge, huge company.
Yeah.
And the fact that, yes, that this has pushed the valuation of Nintendo beyond Sony, but you're right, they've been close to that for a while, and the whole reason they've been so close is all because of the success of the Wii that really pushed and gave them so much cash, you know, that pushed out, and their stocks value.
And the DS.
Yeah, and the DS. Yeah.
And their titles.
Yep.
I mean, the way that they've controlled their properties.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You're absolutely right. So it's cool to see, but you're right, that isn't as shocking as it would have been in like 97. Where it would have been like, there's no way Nintendo is going to be even close to the company that, you know, size that Sony is. Now, and I mean, here's a couple quick articles about Nintendo that I also thought were interesting. People still thinking that Nintendo is doing their shortages intentionally. I gotta be like, man, you don't understand the market very well or understand strategy, because that would be pissing off shareholders and not getting product to. In fact, the only reason that they aren't still beating the PlayStation and selling their units they would have had it 3 months in a row is because they can't get enough product out.
Yeah.
They would not be doing that on purpose. I just think that's funny when people just start spouting out stuff like that. And Nintendo even apologized for the shortage of Switches. Thank you, autoplay. Can't wait till that gets turned off. Hi, Sierra. We'll quote for that.
Well, I mean, that's the whole thing, too. I mean, in a way, people should be happy with the NES Classics that they got, because they did a longer run than they were going to.
Mm-hmm.
Initially, it was just supposed to be a Christmas thing and then over.
Yep. I don't think they communicated that very well, too. They didn't say anything.
They definitely did not communicate that well.
Yeah. It's funny when Nintendo talks about the shortages of the Switches and saying that they're ramping up production, they're doing everything they can. You can't just generate new factories to create a lot of these chips that's out there. There's a set amount out there. And if you think by any stretch of the imagination, going into the end of the year with Splatoon coming out, which I know is a smaller grouping here, but it's huge in Japan, but there is a niche market that likes that. And then Mario coming before Christmas, which is basically the biggest system seller, not just property, but from all the reviews coming off of E3 saying that Mario Odyssey is just amazing. You know that it is going to be hard to find a Nintendo Switch well into 2018. So for those of you that think, don't worry, when we get to September, October, November, you're going to be able to get your hands. I think it's going to be down to the wire.
No, because you're putting platform titles out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're going to start doing bundles with Splatoon as well.
Yeah. At least in some countries. We'll see about the U.S., but it's possible. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think it's been announced in the U.S. I think in Japan they've definitely announced that they're going to do a Splatoon.
Mm-hmm.
The bundle.
Well, and I think that when you get to the Christmas too, and besides just Mario, when you have a lot of these people that aren't big game players, like parents or whatever, that we're not even in the market looking for systems, and we get closer to Christmas, and then they start looking into this, and it's still hard to get. And by that time, they start looking around like, well, look at all the games you can get for the Switch now. There's Mario Kart, there's The Legend of Zelda, there's ARMS, there's all these indie games. It's going to be a huge sell, and I think when that happens and you see the Switch and that many parents that are then now aware what they might not be of today, you're going to start seeing it in news stories. It's going to be on the news all over the place. That's going to create even more demand. I think it's going to spiral even more. I just think that that's natural. But
well, yeah, and on that point, as a parent, I still have this idea of Nintendo as being a parent-approved system.
Mm-hmm.
I can get my kid any game on Nintendo, and I'm not concerned about it.
Right.
In addition to that, over the last 2-3 Christmases, I've bought them a PS4. I've bought them an Xbox One.
Mm-hmm.
What they're asking for Christmas this year is going to be a Switch.
Right.
So you're going to have increased demand, huge amounts of demand come Christmas time. My wife was even looking for a Switch for me for Father's Day.
Yeah, well, clearly Nintendo's still killing it. They're going to continue to keep killing it. I've been playing some Mario Karts, and man, if you do get a Switch, we got to do some racing.
Yeah, definitely.
The battle modes on that are fucking awesome. It's so much fun.
I think just the aspect of me being able to play it here against you there would make it badass.
Online gaming, who knew?
Who knew? Yeah. I mean, we had it at the fraternity.
That's true. That's true.
In the interweb, but...
Well, for those of you watching, let us know what you think about the Super NES Classic. Are you as excited as we are? Do you think that there's any chance in hell they're not going to be sold out immediately and for the extended amount of time that they're still available? Let us know what you think in the comments below.
Yeah. You can dust one off on the shelf yourself.